The name of this story is called Paranormal. This is the prologue, Blood and Leaves, by me, Eric Jordan. The moon was pale and full. Clouds surrounded it like ghastly wraiths seeking to bleed it of life and light. A chill October breeze whispered through the trees of the woods that held Dunn's Lake in its grasp. Near the lake a cabin stood. It was a sturdy, wooden summer home that had seen 30 years' worth of darkness. At the cabin's front door a young man stood. He was a high school senior and his football team's star quarterback. He was a tall boy, with deadly handsome looks and ringlets of sandy brown hair hanging down around his ears. To fend off the cool night air he wore his school's jacket, a blue with cream sleeves that was emblazoned with the large gold V and C for varsity captain. He stood at the door with sweaty palms despite the chill in the air. He gave his hands nervous rubs on the sides of his pant legs. He was told by those to whom it would be murder to disobey to come to the cabin at exactly 10 o'clock. His wristwatch told him that it was 9:58 when he pressed its indy-glow light switch, but looking at the place, it seemed that he was either too early or that the people he was there to meet were late. There were no lights on in any of the windows, and he heard no sound other than that of his own breathing and the crawl of dead leaves along the ground swayed by that ominous specter called the wind. The young man looks around nervously. A minute goes by, so he checks his watch again, 9:59 now, and still no one was coming out to greet him, nor were there any indications of life from beyond the cabin door. Should he stay, or should he go? Good sense told him to just leave. He looks around again, wiping his palms and licking his lips. Were they there or not? Was the sudden feeling of being watched real or imagined? He turned all around, straining his eyes to see through the darkness, but he saw nothing. 10 o'clock now. It was the precise time they said to meet, but still he appeared to be alone out here. Dare he leave? An owl hooted from the cabin roof that made him jump. Had it been there the whole time? If it had, how had he missed it? And if he missed the owl, what else could he have missed? He gave the area another look over and yet saw nothing but the cabin and trees. This is crazy, the young man thinks to himself. The cabin is empty, no one is coming, no one is here. He thinks that maybe they forgot to come, or maybe something came up. That had to be it. Something came up, and he would probably get new instructions tomorrow. He turned to leave, but as soon as he did, the front door of the cabin slowly creaked open. The young man turns back around and stares at the door. He had checked the door as soon as he had arrived, and it was locked. So for it to just open meant that someone had to be on the other side, right? He ventures a frail, hello? Looking into the black gap between the frames of the now open door, but he gets no reply. Slightly daunted, he tries again and gets the same exact result. Okay, this is weird, the young man thinks to himself, swallowing hard against the fear rising from his chest and into his throat. Curious, yet still fearful, he takes a step forward and pushes the door wider and sees no one within. The inside of the cabin, of what the young man could see with only the aid of limited moonlight, looked just as it did the last time that he was asked to visit there months ago. The gray couch sitting in the middle of the floor. The coffee table standing before it, a bar with several stools in the back right corner. There was a staircase to the left leading to a loft. He takes another step, crossing over the threshold, achieving the signature groan of flexing wood beneath his feet. It startles him. There was a door below the loft stairs, and it slides open silently. The young man's heart skips a beat and quickens. 2 doors opened now by apparently nothing. From weird to creepy, the young man thinks. Hello? He warily calls again out into the quiet of the house. No response, so he walks in further to the door open under the stairs. He stands in front of it now with only the light, still that which is spilling in from the open front door, which is not much and definitely not enough to see by. Come in and close the door. It was another young man's voice calling from the room in front of him. The young varsity captain jumps at the sound, then swallows and tries to retrieve his composure. He sighs with relief and obeys the voice, shedding his earlier trepidation because now he knows that someone else was here. As he steps in and closes the door, the darkness grows thicker, so now the young man can see nothing, not even his own hands in front of his face. The voice he had heard was familiar, but it didn't make sense to the young man as to why the person he was sent there to talk to was just sitting here in the dark, alone. Alone in the dark and waiting for him. This gave birth to a new fear as the reality of the situation dawns on the young football captain. He thinks now that maybe he should have left when he had the chance, but it was too late for that now. Swallowing a dry lump in his throat and wiping his sweaty palms dry again, he makes to speak because 10 seconds had passed. He starts, but before he could finish the word, a feeble, flickering flame dances into life in the center of the room, a small, withering flame atop a tiny candle. Immediately illuminated is the space around the candle, a table, a pair of finely manicured hands, the disembodied head of the familiar speaker. No, not disembodied, the speaker was just wearing a black long-sleeved turtleneck shirt. He had neatly brushed hair, pale but flawless skin, and brown eyes that seemed to have a fiery glow all of their own. Our young football captain knows well who this is. Everyone in the school did. Jaw muscles flex before the familiar speaker speaks again. "Mr. Keller," he says, addressing the young man with a cool but slight arch of his left eyebrow. "I received your message. I'm sorry that you feel this way." The speaker's expression shifts to genuine regret bordering on sorrow. His head tilts up and then back as he appraises all of Davis Keller. It makes Davis feel as if he's being weighed and measured all at the same time. "Is there anything that we can do to change your mind?" says the speaker after a moment has passed. "You are an asset to us. Are you unhappy with your position on the football team? Or perhaps Miss Valley is not your type. She can always be replaced." Davis Keller shakes his head. "No, all of that's cool, He licks his lips and gives his palms another rub. Why can't they just stay dry, he wonders. "Just what?" the speaker asked, eagerness in his voice now to make right whatever Davis wanted. Davis sighs, not quite sure how to say what he knows he must without it sounding as bad as it did. I just can't do what it is you all want me to do. I just can't do this anymore." Eagerness fades to sadness in the young speaker's face. "I see," is his response. "Are you sure?" "Yeah," Davis says, swallowing. "I want out." The young man sitting at the table breathes in loudly through his nose. "Very well. It is done," he says, "and it can't be undone. You may go." The candle fire dies suddenly, and Davis is once again swallowed by a consuming darkness. He stands there, feeling cold and naked, not sure of what to do. Should he respond, or should he just leave? He makes up his mind and turns to the door and pushes it open. He takes a step out of the room, then, from behind him, he hears the other young man say, "Take him from the cabin and kill him. Leave no remains." Davis's heart skips another beat and drops to his knees. Kill him? Who was he talking to? Certainly he wasn't talking to Davis. They were alone. Who was he talking about? Certainly not Davis. He hadn't done anything worth being killed over. Who was he talking to? Davis looks back over his shoulder, for surely he had heard wrong, but then he hears a heavy footstep, like something a bear would make. He hears it again, yet couldn't decide where the sound was coming from. Who or what was making it, Davis wonders frantically. His first thought was of a giant, then a monster, and then a giant monster. Throwing caution and composure to the wind, Davis lets out a scream and runs as fast as he can through the cabin to the front door and out into the night. He only makes it a dozen yards beyond the cabin when something huge and dark swoops down upon him, scoops him up in massive hands and lifts him high. The world whirls around him in dark, flashing shapes. Trees, leaves, the ground, glowing eyes, the ground. Davis screams for his life, but his arms being ripped violently from his sockets silence him as the shock of too much pain all at once passes him out. Blood gushes and sprays over the dead leaves. I want to thank you all for listening to this prologue to the larger story called Paranormal. It's actually a book that I wrote and haven't had published yet. It's about 400 pages long. If you would like for me to do more of this story, please let me know down in the comments. And at the very least, if you enjoyed this sort of thing, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. I really appreciate your time, and I hope this was something cool. Until next time, guys, I am out. Peace.